The nation is under siege. The nation is under siege.
I'm gonna do my best Joey impersonation. Remember Joey? In school. Caught you smoking, huh? All right. Anyway, tonight it's Divided We Stand, Sunday Night Live from Bridgeton, New Jersey, via not Arlington, Virginia, but we are live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, somewhere in the sticks of the South. If you're unfamiliar with this channel, it is Divided We Stand. We ask that you subscribe. We hope that you'll enjoy this. We're not looking for anything. We are unmonetized, demonetized. We don't ask for anything, just your participation and commiseration. You can find us on Facebook also. We have a group page called the Divided We Stand group page, very, very popular. And we ask that you become a member. And that's that. So, something new tonight. We are broadcasting. I think it's been a year since we've broadcasted from Alabama. But here we are. And here he is. It's our David Price. Dave, what brings you to Alabama?
How's things going, Brian?
Uh-oh. All of a sudden, the southern roots are coming out of his lips here.
What roots? What y'all talking about, roots, man? It's the way we talk down
Do
here.
you think you could pass? You went to like a local restaurant in Alabama and you did that? Do you think you could fool them?
I've done it before, because you got Alabama a little different. My family from Texas, but you can do it if you do it correctly. They will accept it. So yeah, it's kind of the way I talk when I'm down here.
Well, let me ask you this: did you actually do that?
Yeah,
honestly.
I've done it before. Yeah,
so in other words, like if you were in England, you would just skip your normal accent and you would ought to speak like I'm from England.
I've done it from time to time. You know, sometimes down here in the South we go a little slower. So sometimes I'll just be sitting out here. Right now I'm, here, which is a suburb of Tuscaloosa, if Tuscaloosa had suburbs. But it's kind of interesting because I don't know why I just started talking.
Well, what's in Tuscaloosa besides the university?
There's a few things in Tuscaloosa that is there. The two most important things in my life. There's.
I guess I'm gonna get a little bit bad with this.
Hill Williams. But what happens is two most important people in my life are here. That'd be my granddaughter and my grandson. And,
well then I thought your most important person was what's her name?
Who?
Stormy Daniels.
No. That's just when I'm joshing and funning with you a bit, and you just don't seem to get it. You know, like, no offense, but you Northerners, you just don't get the life down here. It's relaxing. People are friendly. They got a smile on their face. Today I went to a country club brunch and everybody there, saying hi, how's it going? That kind of thing. You don't see that up north much. You really don't. And that's why, I don't know what you're saying. You indicate like I'm talking funny or something, but this is the way I talk when I'm down here. This is the way we all talk. We got some,
So you bring your southern accent there. Do you bring your Tempest Storm 8mm with you too?
I'm sorry, what?
Did you bring your Tempest Storm 8mm stripper videos from the 1950s?
No, I down here. See, there you are. You're kind of like funning, and it's okay.
Funnin'. I like funnin'. That's good. Okay.
But
Is that what they say down there? You're
down
like
here,
funnin'? Funnin'?
The other night, would you shut up? The other day, when we was traveling, we'd be traveling from here to Montgomery, which is the capital of Alabama. I'll give you some geography because obviously you don't know where the hell you are. But anyway, and
It sounds like the guy from To Kill a Mockingbird. I'm not sure which one.
Well, the thing with that,
Who?
that's interesting because
Who didn't speak?
that took place in Alabama. That was a story. Harper Lee was born
I
in
believe
Alabama.
it. I believe it.
Yeah, so it's kind of a story. But anyway, as I was trying to say before I so rudely interrupted by your northern ass, we was driving from Tuscaloosa to Montgomery, the capital, and you passed the three main things that I find are sacred in Alabama.
Buc-ee's. You said Buc-ee's, whatever the hell that is.
Now, Buc-ee's is all over the South. That ain't just Alabama, man. Buc-ee's is
Good enough.
If you've never been to a Buc-ee's, it's like
No, I have not been to a
no,
Buc-ee's.
you need to go there.
If I see a restaurant called Buc-ee's, I ain't going.
Well, it's not just a restaurant, son. It's got like
Cornbread, right? Tell me,
If
cornbread
you-
and waffles.
What?
Cornbread and
No,
waffles?
The way Buc-ee's is, if they don't have it in there, you don't be needing it. There's no reason whatsoever.
Crawdads? Jethro Bodine's
They-
favorite
They
restaurant?
get all that shit. Now, let me finish my story here. You're testing my patience, okay? So anyway, as I was saying, we was headed from Tuscaloosa to Montgomery, and we passed the three things that Alabama's most noted for.
Guns,
Now, in no particular order.
churches,
Do you
corn
want to do the
pipes.
whole damn thing? You don't even know what you're talking about. See, Northerners are ignorant and rude. That's what I find. Anyway, so the three things in no particular order. You mentioned one of them. There was indeed many churches. Some of them, we take the Lord seriously down here, and so we build houses of worship for Him, and some of them are pretty damn big. Some of them are pretty small. So
Did you
we
go
got-
into the churches to worship? That's what I'm asking you.
Oh, well, we always do. We always do. I mean, you worship, when you're in the South, you worship. It's what happens, okay? Secondly,
No, I thought that
you
was a
mentioned-
place where you pick people up, in like the pews. You're looking down the end of it.
No. See, that's that. Then we got,
Yeah, bullshit.
after we got the prayer field, then we got to defend, right? You got to defend. Sometimes you got to defend God, sometimes it's country. So we got a lot of gun shops. And that's good because, think of it. You get up one morning, right? You get up one morning and your AK-47 doesn't work. I mean, what the hell are you going to do, right? You can't really fix the gun. So you take it in the gun shop and they'll give you two to take out. That's kind of Southerners. They know.
So you're telling me right now you could just walk into a store just by the fact that you're over 21 and you could buy a gun sight
of
unseen
course.
with
Why-
any type of
what would be-
information.
What would be a reason? Like yesterday. Okay, I'll come back to that. Hold this. I want to make the third point because this may be the most important point. I didn't need to bring no 8 millimeter.
Well, I got to stop you. For those of you who are new to this channel, this is Dave from Alabama.
That's
Dave
correct.
from Alabama.
That's right. So anyway, the third thing is very important too, because you see, God says a lot of things, and you got to follow the rules. There's some 10 Commandments, and then there's a couple other things. Now you can let some of that Jesus stuff go, because he was more liberal. You don't have to worry about him. But if you're looking at the other side of it, 10 Commandments was in the old days, and what else was sleep with a couple sisters, that was in the Bible back then. So you can do that. That's why people say, hey, yeah, you sleep with your cousin. It was in the Bible. It's okay. But
You're the
what
fastest
does-
talking Southerner I've ever seen.
Pardon me.
You're the fastest talking Southerner
Well,
I've ever
because
seen or heard.
I have a lot to say tonight, and you keep
I can
interrupting.
see.
But the thing is, the third story, let's recap, because you keep interrupting. In no particular order, we got God in our churches. We got guns in our store. But most importantly, we have adult bookstores.
You're kidding me.
Arranged
In Alabama?
Along the road. Now, what happens with that is we don't want the kids reading the stuff, right? Because, you got to be careful.
Because,
Uh,
tell me why. I just want to, I'm oblivious
why?
to why.
Well, I think Mr. Trump said it best, and I'll talk a little bit later about it. But I believe in what the man said, and this is what he said. Okay, he said it, no uncertain terms. He said, "Parents, you wake up, you hug your kids, they go off to school, and they come back a different gender." Now, we know that has to be true because President Trump said it. I haven't personally run across any of that. Most of the kids I know, they go off as a boy and come back as a boy. They go off as a girl, come back as a girl.
Well,
But
what does it have
apparently,
to do with going into a bookstore?
would you be patient? This is the thing with the North. They rush, they rush, they rush. Slow down. All right. A fast dog catches no butterflies. Okay, remember that. So what happened is this: adults need bookstores because you don't want to mix them up with kids, right? Because you don't want the kids seeing like the private parts and shit. I mean, if you're a grown man, okay.
Are you speaking from experience here, or is this what we've been
No,
told?
well, of course. I mean, you don't grow up in the South and not visit churches, gun shops, and adult bookstores. So what you
So,
have,
in other words,
though,
and you pass by these bookstores while you've been in Alabama.
oh,
You've
every
seen
time.
lots of cars in the parking lot, or is it just at night you
Well,
see
no,
one or two?
see, there you are making assumptions. You're talking out your butthole because what happens is the parking lots are not in front of the store. The parking lots are behind the stores.
And what's the
Why?
reasoning for that?
Well, you don't want somebody, to think you're
To
supposed to
out
be at
you,
church.
right?
Yeah, it's supposed to be church, and here you are at one of them adult bookstores.
So, what did
So
you do? I mean, you went to all three?
I always visit. Why?
All right.
Why
So,
wouldn't I?
I'm assuming that you parked in the back so they couldn't identify
Oh,
you.
no. There are some of us down here that feel that we are entitled to God, guns, and porn. That's basically it. And so I'm one of those that supports. I think, honestly, I'm not sure, but I think maybe.
Interruption. If you are from Alabama, this is your guy right over here.
But here's what happened. Like, I believe it was Noah or Daniel
Noah?
or one of
Who's
the
he?
guys from the Old Testament. I think Noah. Yeah, he's most known.
I don't really know.
Noah's most known for being swallowed, but no, that he had a big boat. I know it wasn't Noah. I'm sorry, I got confused. It was Jonah. That's who it was. Jonah is most known for being swallowed by a whale, right? And but people don't know the other story. You know what else? You know what Jonah was? He was a producer of porn. So we know from the Bible.
Who was their producer for porn? Noah?
Jonah. I got
Jonah?
the guy. In fact, that's why the whale spit him out, because he said
Too much sperm?
Pardon me?
I shouldn't say that. Forget that I said that. I don't know why. I could think about the whale. I thought there was a joke there, and it's not.
No. That wasn't funny. If it was pretty pathetic attempt at humor, or northern attempt at humor. See, what I don't understand.
You're starting to lose your accent there, Southerner, here a little bit from time to time.
This is what I talk. It's not an accent. It's the way we talk. We talk this way. So, and you can tell there's subtle differences. Like, I mean, I do think this is Alabama. If I was in Texas, I'd talk a little different, have a little bit of a twang. But, so what do you do? You say, what do you do? Well, there's another thing you do in Alabama, which I did last night. If you're in Tuscaloosa and there's a home football game, you got to be going there, because there's 100,000 people there with you watching that damn game. And you get some tributes. Last night I heard a tribute to God.
For what? What did he do?
Well, to pray that you cripple and hurt the other team, which is the purpose of football. Because you see, what people don't understand is Alabama, we got the real God. Okay, the real God, not none of these fake gods.
Was that Tommy Tuberville?
No, you better say it right. That's, first of all, put your hand over your heart and say, Senator Thomas Tuberville, former Auburn coach. Now, a lot of Alabama fans don't like him because, Alabama, Auburn, they're rivals. But anyway, back to what I was saying. So you get some God things. And Alabama got the real God. Then you got to do some tributes. So they had a flyover, normally it's jets, but here we go slower. So we had 3 helicopters fly over the stadium last night. And then at the end of the third quarter, the pilots showed up. Isn't that amazing? The pilots who flew those planes, Brian, they showed up in their stadium. No, they landed the planes. And then they came in. But last night was sacred. Football is a religion here, as most of you, I hope, know. In fact, there was some talk a couple years ago that if Jesus Christ were to come back and he were to make an appearance in Alabama, and at the same time, Nick Saban, the coach then of the Rolling Tide of Bama, were speaking, probably Jesus would get 2 or 3 people, and Nick would get 10, 13,000. So last night was moving. He actually named the stadium after him last night, and he came out. And, to hear 100,000 people in red, most of them red and white, acknowledging God, guns, and, of course, subtly porn. Because how they honor porn? You should see how them cheerleaders dress, okay? That is a fantasy dress that they're wearing. So, again, let's stress what we got down here. We got God, we got guns, and we got porn. And they're all interrelated as a web of life. And it's what's this person saying?
They can't decide whether you sound like Gomer Pyle or James Carville.
Them boys, neither of them boys from Bama. Come on, man. I'll accept somebody from Mississippi. That's next to us, right? And Louisiana ain't that far. But, man, you start getting up that state. So I know this guy lives in
I'll tell you what, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference between an Arkansas accent and an Alabama
that's because
accent.
you don't pay attention. But the other thing is, there's people like, I know this guy from Arlington, Virginia. He thinks he's in the South. That's like a joke. You know what I mean? The South, like yesterday, I had to stop. Well, I wasn't driving. I had to ask my son who was driving to stop because we passed the original capital of the Confederacy. Now, people think the Civil War's over. It ain't. We're still fighting it. You Northerners just don't understand it. That's all.
I think we understand it quite well.
And we got
well.
Mr. Trump. And Mr. Trump is us, and we are Mr. Trump. And that's a good thing. Because what happens is, Mr. Trump, look at his life. He's got God in his life. We know that because God chose him. God chose him to be the leader, to reunite us in the faith.
Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to interrupt for a second that within about 2 or 3 minutes, this acid trip should probably end at some point in time.
Anyway,
he's gonna knock his head on the
God's
table.
Chosen. That's number one. Number two, he has spoken. He just spoke at a big gun rally, right, in Texas.
Who, God?
And he said, "I will not take your guns from you." Now we know what the Democrats will do, but Mr. Trump said, and if one thing Mr. Trump is, he's believable. He is believable. What's his agent hippie? What the hell he
says
about?
Enough.
What?
Enough. You know what enough means?
Enough. Let me make a point. I'll respect some of that, but let me make a point. But what is Mr. Trump most known for? What do you think his expertise is? It's in porn. Yes. He said you could grab him by the lady parts. He said, you can do just about anything you want. He slept with God's gift to femininity, Stormy Daniels. Stormy said it was the best she ever knew, and that's something coming from a porn star saying Donald Trump was the best she ever knew, and that's what she said. Donald Trump said that, and I believe it. And so anyway,
best in what way?
Well, Brian, if I have to explain the facts of life to you, Northerners are more backward than I thought. What's this?
You aren't going to like this at Bama guy. You don't even know who British guitarists are. Okay, you might know Roy, whatever his name is. Alan Holdsworth is God's chosen virtuoso fusion guitar player.
You're going to tell me. No, wait a minute.
You're going to tell me Roy Clark is the guy you like.
Do you, Brian? Do you agree Alan Holdsworth is a good guitar player?
I would agree he is a virtuoso. He is a one of a kind.
Well, let me tell you something. Can he outpick Roy Clark? Can he play banjo?
No, actually, Roy Clark was a picker. He plays legato, so no, he could not outpick him.
Let me ask you this: can he outplay that boy in Deliverance? I don't think so.
That boy in Deliverance didn't actually play. There was someone behind him playing that.
Well, that's what they say, but that ain't true. Because in the South,
did you find anything peculiar about that young man playing the banjo?
I was fascinated.
Did he look a little bit
his
different
fingers were moving, and he went ding 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 ding. Went fast and everything, man.
I can guess your favorite scene from that movie.
Well, it was when them boys enjoyed that Northern boy. Yeah.
So you're talking, Ned Beatty. I think is what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, what's not to enjoy with that scene?
All right. So we met Mr. Bucky here. I think it's time to go northern here. Okay.
Hey, Brian, what's up, man? What's up?
Good to see you, Dave. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the alter ego of the guy you just heard. And that's Dave Price from Bridgeton, New Jersey. Don't let him fool you. He's not from the South, though some people would, argue with me on that point about Bridgeton.
What are you talking about, bro? What are you talking about?
Yeah, we had some asshole corn pone on about a minute ago.
Oh, well, I'm sorry for being late, but I was detained.
Okay.
So,
Truthfully, have you seen any corn pones down there?
No. Now let's get serious.
Okay.
We've had some fun. No, but seriously, the biggest surprise, and I don't know what to make of it, and maybe, like I said, I really do believe this. I think we have one of the most, it's not huge, but we have one of the most intelligent audiences.
All right, that's good to know. I mean, I don't really want to bust on people from the South or from Alabama, but I've been ticked off with their vote, so.
But what I was thinking about down here, and I think I mentioned it. We always do like a 2-minute conference before we do the show. The thing that has surprised me most is 2 weeks ago I came back to South Jersey, and didn't come to Bridgeton, but spent time in 2 neighboring counties, and saw quite a few Trump signs. I've been in Alabama since, we flew in and we arrived about 11:30 Thursday morning. I've not seen a Trump sign yet. Now, I did see on the outskirts of Tuscaloosa a very small store that said Republican and Trump headquarters. Now, what does that mean? Well, I think there's probably 2 ways you can look at that, and I'm not sure which one. So if anybody is from the South or has Southern relatives or Southern friends, maybe they can tell me what it is. Either they are so convinced, that Donald Trump is going to win and is their guy, that they don't need to put up the signs because there's so many.
Right.
Or the other thing is that maybe Donald Trump isn't as popular.
Well, I think you could find out if you wear your Covfefe t-shirt down there and see what happens.
Well, no, I made my...
No, he's not going to do that. Why don't you just get one of those the Harris Walls flags and put them out and see what happens?
Well,
you'll find out real quick, right?
No, I promise.
I mean, TJ, you could tell us about Northern Florida. You do that. That might be a problem in certain areas in the Panhandle.
Well, of course. But I wouldn't do that. I promised my grandson I wouldn't.
Or Tebow. There's a difference in TJ Tebow. And I'm not busting on Florida. It's just that there's some parts of Florida.
Well, there's, again, let's look. We talk about a divided America. One divide. I mean, there's so many. But one you can talk about is the North and the South. That has been divided since the country was founded. And part of the problems that we deal with are the fact that we've never been able to deal completely with that. I went down here. I do talk to people. Obviously, we did go to a brunch at the country club today, and I do find people, they're terrible. There's
country club. How'd you get into the country club? You're not even a member.
I know our son is.
He's a member of the country club.
Yacht club, yeah.
Really, he does that kind of stuff, or no?
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't do that. But he plays tennis, and they have you can go to the brunch, and we did. And so you get talking to people. We stay away. Stay away from. If you stay away from politics, which you can, they're like friendly. Hi, how are you? All this stuff. And the minute you introduce that, then you're off running. I think there was a wise somebody once said, "Gun gods and porn." From the South, and they are indeed it is. But now here's a conversation. Okay, so we're riding. We came down. My grandson played football on Friday night. That was exciting, of course. And he's a pretty good keeper in soccer. So he's also playing soccer for the.
So I assume he's the kicker for the football team.
No, well, actually, it's funny you should say that. They have a really good team. They won. What was the final? 51-6. It wasn't that close. And they'll groom him next year. But he got to punt for the first time in the game. So I got to see him, punt for the very first time. They have a kicker. Everybody. They actually the quarterback for the team passed last year for the 4th most yards in the history of Alabama. And football is king down here. But anyway, we're right. And
More
this
than
is
Joe
what happened.
Namath. Wow, maybe.
Yeah. Well, that's university. We're talking about high school. So.
Oh, high school. Okay.
So anyway, and came up, just talking about different things. And Michael said, "Well, Owen, about your friends." He said, "They all go hunting." And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Can I go hunting?" It's kind of interesting question when you got guns and stuff. But it is, I mean, one of the things you notice down here, it is different. Okay, it is different in the South. Don't let anybody kid you. And it's not all horrible, but I do think Southerners believe, in general, because the pace of life is different. Much slower down here, much slower, and they just don't trust. They kind of lump Northerners and liberals and all this stuff together, and basically say they ain't us, and we don't like it, and that's it. Now, Tuscaloosa is an interesting city because you have the college, right, or the university. And university towns tend to be more liberal than non-university towns. And you also have, Brian, here a huge, and I mean huge, Mercedes-Benz plant. It's the largest in America. And so you have a lot of Germans living in Tuscaloosa who are, engineers and corporate execs and that kind of thing. But again, it's the South. Last night, to point out another difference, our grandson was born in Tennessee, and I give him credit. We raised a couple of rebel grandchildren, which is good. He wore complete Tennessee gear to the Alabama game last night, and he was called a lot of different names, and he shot right back at it. So, I mean, are Southerners more passionate? I don't know. They were pretty to watch 100,000 people in ecstasy because Alabama won. But that could happen in Michigan or anywhere else. So some things are the same, other things are different. And we were talking today, the whole family sitting around, like, it doesn't really matter because Alabama is going to be for Trump. I mean, it doesn't matter. I'll bet anybody any amount of money you want that Alabama will go with Trump. Which brings us to a point I want to make tonight. It's becoming more and more clear that there are 7 states that are in play. And if you're not sure which ones, just look at who the candidates are visiting. And what do you think is the number 1 state they're visiting right now of the 7? What would you guess, Brian?
Well, I think the most important of them all would be Pennsylvania, but I don't think that they're.
Yeah, you are. That's it. Just stop right there.
Okay.
That's it. Some people say Pennsylvania. There's the whole ball game. But again, as I always do, and it's getting worse, please, people, don't look at the polls as being anything more than a possible snapshot of a moment. That's all they are. There's no indication of who, they can't tell you who's going to win or who's going to lose.
I think the one thing you can get from the polls that it's going to be close.
Oh, I don't disagree with you there, Brian. In fact, as I said, we're having a family political chat, which is something we do. It's kind of interesting because we've got 6, well, Judy's not, 5 very opinionated people chirping in on subjects. But Michael raised the point, and it's true. There are some people that believe it'll come down to 1 district in Nebraska. It could be that
one vote, right.
And
well, wouldn't that be something?
There are 2 states.
And of course, the Supreme Court would do something to undo it.
No, they can't overturn the state constitution. There are 2 states, Maine and Nebraska, where they allow, if something dominates, they can split their electoral college votes. Everybody else, winner takes all. Now,
until the governor of Nebraska does something strange.
Well, but that's true. I
mean, locks up the votes in that district.
We've said that before. Again, bears repeating from time to time if any new people are on. I mean, there are many stages to this election. The first stage is to do everything we can to help Ms. Harris and Governor Walz win. That's the first thing. Then after there, we'll take the other issues as they rise. I think it's good to start thinking about them, and there are plans out there that'll take care, that are meant to battle that. So it's not like until the whole thing is, though, and we saw that with the Trump strategy with the judge in New York who held off, everything and postponed. Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. No, that was smart because it won't get to the Supreme Court yet.
Right. I know what you're saying.
So Trump is going to go in
because he would probably have a victory from the Supreme Court anyway. So,
but that judge was smart enough to delay that and take the heat, and know that does like I said this way, the Supreme Court can't rule on what isn't in front of it. And it appears they'll be nothing in front of them about Trump between now and the election. But let's focus, Brian, for a moment. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. The debate is Tuesday.
Right.
It probably will be the only debate.
Mm-hmm.
Probably. If one candidate got wiped out, maybe they'd want a second one, or they wouldn't want one, or if it's really clear. But at this point, it looks like
Trump would certainly want one if he bombs.
But Harris doesn't have to grant it. I mean, it all
Right.
depends. Okay, so what are your thoughts? What do you see?
I
happening
talked
with the
about
debate?
this with Ronnie tonight on the way to the restaurant. So, first of all, just in general with Democrats, I don't feel they're forceful enough. I feel like they miss the opportunity, especially during debates. That look, in general, the votes you're looking for are the ignorant, in my opinion, right now. I mean, anybody who is intelligent or who's a Trumper or who's just a hardcore Democrat, they're going to vote the way they want all the time. It's already said. But those who are left are the people who can't make decisions. Therefore, I think you have to have a clear indication, a clear forceful indication that you are the dominant of the two. And because Trump's a yeller, we know he'll do that and try to yell over her and this and that. But she has got to attack, and she has not only got to attack, and again, we know the mics are off, but when she has the opportunity to speak, because the moderators may not, she has to attack on those things that are just like the tariffs. Number one, he's been talking about how he tariffed, China. She's got to say, that is nothing but a tax on the middle class. That is a tax, and then he could say, well, that Biden kept them. He said, well, I'm not Biden, and I'm going to get rid of them, or something like that. But it's just the idea that she's got to attack, and she's smart enough to do it. If the moderators don't hold him accountable for his answers, to make sure he answers the questions, then she must, and can't play this, prim little nicety type game that the Democrats usually play.
First of all, I don't think
she's a prosecutor, so she probably won't play around.
That's exactly what I was going to say. If you go to the general consensus, I suppose of most people, but sometimes consensus are true. The prosecutors are the hard asses, and the defense attorneys are usually the more liberal or more, should I say, pacificationist. So I think it does speak well. I think you mentioned something though that is one of her tasks that she has to, which is kind of hard to do. She'll have to figure this out, how she doesn't lose any of Biden's supporters, right?
Right.
But also makes it clear that she's not Biden, to attract the very large group of anti-Biden, anti-Trump. And that was a fairly large group. Okay.
Well, you're basically talking about the Kennedy crowd, perhaps.
Well,
or just the undecided crowd.
Well, I mean,
what, Dave? What? Did you just pass gas?
No, it's Wild Dogs.
Okay.
They run free here in Alabama. But
nice.
What happens is, Bri, is this: you've got with Kennedy, I think the majority of the people who are supporting Kennedy will just shift to Trump. There weren't that many. Some will get disillusioned because they wanted Kennedy to be Kennedy, right? And we know that Trump's not going to let anybody be themselves. My opinion, or if you don't, I'll tell you now. I think after Trump, Robert Kennedy Jr. is the most. Let me do it this way. In the I am crazy and delusional poll, he might come in second. Okay.
Right.
But we see that it doesn't matter again. Okay, you've got Donald Trump and his morals. It doesn't matter, right? It does not matter to his supporters. And Robert Kennedy, I might get the number wrong here, and I apologize if I do, but I believe in 1 year he had 37 affairs with women who he was not married to while he was married, then wrote about
it. At that point, you probably can't even consider them affairs. They're just sexcapades, probably.
Well, it's a Kennedy. I mean, I hate to say that, but
right. Well, no, don't hate to say it because it happens.
Well, no, because I think what happens is they have demonstrated that they have a large libido. Many of them, certainly John F. Kennedy did. He is quoted as saying, "If I don't have sex daily, I get a headache." We know that it's factual that he had two secretaries who, I don't know if they couldn't type, but they were called Fiddle and Faddle, and they were just there on the days when no one else could be provided for him. Robert Kennedy, we know he had a series of affairs. Both brothers shared Marilyn Monroe, not at the same time. So, but again, that might get to the fact of what I always find interesting. There's so many political families that come from wealth, right? And the wealthy, there's another divide. The wealthy are different than the non-wealthy.
Right, they're entitled.
I was watching today at this country club, and I'm looking at these little ones, right? And I'm just you can almost see it in it that they're going to be like those Southern gentlemen and Southern ladies, and obviously have some money, or you wouldn't be in this country club situation. But yeah, I think with the debate, it's fascinating because of the two different personalities. You've got gender differences, you've got age differences, you've got philosophical, theological. One of the taglines is the prosecutor versus the felon, and that's accurate up to a point. I'm not sure. It appears to me, I'm of the camp that Donald Trump is losing whatever little bit he had mentally. I mean, if you really start breaking down his comments, I want to spend, before we go, so I'm not going to do it right now, spend a little bit of time on education in a minute. But certainly what he's saying, there are two problems with it. He tries, and we described it last time about the weave. It's disjointed. It's garbled. It's covfefe all over again.
Mm-hmm.
I can't follow him. I mean, I really can't. I don't see, and he claims, this sign of bread, whatever. And then you've got, not only do you have, he has some really outlandish ideas, and there's so many of them that the one that disappeared and then it resurfaced last week minimally for a moment is, he's going to build a dome over the United States.
Right.
That I guess is going to be clear plastic or something like that, because we can watch the bombs explode and it'll be like July 4th. Nuclear, what? Come on. Yet people believe him or follow him or hate the Democrat, for whatever reason. So this debate is extremely important because this election is extremely important. And we've already seen what a debate can do. A poor performance can drive a weak candidate from the field. So that's how powerful they can be. This one I don't see having that same kind of power. I mean, Kamala's not going anywhere and Trump's not going anywhere. But I think it'll be interesting to watch, and it'll be interesting to see. But the problem, Brian, then again, is with journalism today. Where are you going to go to find the true story of what happened in the debate? There's only one place. You know where that is?
The true story of the debate.
Yeah. Where are you going to find that?
Well, you're not going to find it on Fox News, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you,
when the votes come through, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's.
I'm going to tell you the answer. The answer is nowhere unless you watch the damn thing yourself. Because
Ron was smart. She knows how I really get into these debates. We got popcorn for Tuesday night, and we're going to sit back, and I'm going to watch his ass get handed to him, because it will. She will hand it to. Yes,
we think
he can yell and do all the shit he wants, and that's what he will do.
But that's true. But that's not all you judge him on. I mean, there's so many other things that they'll be judged on. Facial twitches. You know what Fox and OAN and Newsmax and Breitbart are going to do. You know what MSNBC and Reuters and they're going to do. So that's why, I mean,
MSNBC, people always talk about, MSNBC, they're always I just find them logical when, they were very, very critical of Biden when Biden lost that debate. You could say that Biden won the debate on content, but
there still is.
You wouldn't hear that on Fox that Trump, no matter what happens, you will not hear on Fox that he lost the debate.
If you have the meter, right, set for liberal and conservative, Fox, OAN, Newsmax, Breitbart are going to go off the scale. But MSNBC is going to be on the scale of the left. They're not going to be off the scale, but they are left. I mean, that's Chris Hayes, Lawrence O'Donnell, Rachel Maddow, excellent, excellent. But their politics skews liberal, and in a divided country, see, that's not such a bad thing. I mean, you can't play Trump equally against any other candidate. You can't. And a lot of there's I don't know if you've seen it, Brian. There's a meme about journalism making the rounds, and it's funny because there was how on records they have the dirty version, the clean version of rap songs,
Right.
and there's actually a dirty version and a clean of this meme, and it says, when it's I'll give you the clean one first, which is the one that surfaced just recently. When one person says it's raining outside and another person said it isn't, it's not the journalist's job to report both sides. It's to go to the window and see which one is true, right? And then the dirty one has, go to the window and see which fucking one is true.
Mm-hmm.
And what I would love to be able to support and say that's not true, but journalisms do too much of what-isms. They do too much of balance because that's what they were trained to do. Maybe in the old days that worked, but you can't balance sanity and insanity. It cannot be done. You just can't. I mean, you shouldn't. I disagree that nobody's talking about Trump. No, it's being done, but it's just, I mean, what do you do? I know what I would do, but I don't run a news organization. I mean, I'd have the thing under lie, fact check just while you're there. But I don't even know if that would matter, right? I really don't. I mean, look, if you hate black people, who are you going to vote for?
Trump.
Only one candidate, right?
Right.
If you really want your guns and are afraid that they'll be taken, who are you going to vote for?
It's obvious.
If you believe that abortion is the biggest sin or a big sin, who are you going to vote for?
It's obvious.
If you believe that gay men and women of any nomenclature are abominations under God, who are you going to vote for?
It's obvious.
And that's what we're up against. David Hogue, who, for anybody who doesn't know David, I think he's brilliant. A young man. He was in the school shooting in Broward County, and he kind of surfaced, he and a couple others as spokesperson, and he's devoted his life now to political organization, not necessarily running, but organizing. And he said the biggest problem facing the Democrats today, and he would be in tune with this, is young white men turning in record numbers to the Republican Party and divorcing themselves from the Democratic Party. And when I was growing up, it was kind of a split between liberals and conservatives. But with young people, it was liberals over conservatives.
Absolutely.
Even in Bridgeton, which is an extremely conservative town. I'm not so sure that's the case today. I think what they have is.
And why do you think that is? Social media?
Yeah, I think that's some of it. My son is, as regular viewers of this show knows, he's a college professor. So often when we're talking, I'll pick his brain, because it's been a long time since I've been in college. It's been a long time since I've been a college professor. But he said there's a lot of feeling with young males. Now, remember, a lot of his students are Southern because he is teaching in Alabama, not all of them. But that they're somehow being left out. They seem to be the ones with the replacement theory. And see, it's not just with them. It's not
Left out
just
of what?
What?
Left
The
out of
American dream. Okay. Look.
Nobody's stealing their jobs.
Well, that's true. But here's the thing. Okay.
And most of them aren't going to Harvard anyway.
Well, but that doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean? They just feel, they hear the stories of their grandpa who busted his ass in the coal mine.
So in other words, they've tasted the Kool-Aid, propaganda rules, and the gooey mind of that individual is beyond repair.
Think about this for a moment. Do you realize that and listen, people, to what I'm going to say, because it's important to take it in context. Do you realize that every female in graduate school, is a spot that a male can't take? And that's what they're saying. I mean, they don't understand that
Right.
females are equal, that females actually can do better on time. I mean, it's all kinds of reasons. But in their mind, those females took that slot that I couldn't get or somebody couldn't get like me. And my life is not going to be as good as my daddy's or his daddy's. Now, there are realities out there. It's very hard for a young person today to buy a home. How much do you think your home is appreciated in the years you've been there?
It's
A lot.
funny because that was the one thing we were worried about, because it had gone down in value by like $70,000, but now it's gone up. So
Of course.
what we paid
course.
for it, we could probably get an extra $60,000 or $70,000
That's right.
if we sold, and we're able
right.
to sell it.
But that's 60, 70,000 more than the people, it's just hard.
But that
And
doesn't
so-
mean anything this right now, because in 2 years it could change completely.
I understand that, but people don't look into the future, Brian. We know that.
Right, and we know that, and that's part of the problem.
And it's right now I can't get into graduate school I want because that's at the one end. At the other is, well, you know what? I'm stuck in this McDonald's job. No, you're stuck in that McDonald's job because you have no marketable skills.
Look, Dave, here, I know where you're going with this. When times were tough for me, when I was right out of college, there weren't a lot of jobs, I immediately blamed Ronald Reagan. Now, I didn't like Ronald Reagan, and there's
Right.
some truth to that. But in reality, as I look back, it was something where subconsciously I knew I didn't want to be a business person. And then
Right.
sometimes I didn't care about the interviews. I didn't show any type of optimism or interest in
Right.
these jobs. So, you have to kind of step back for a second. There's only so much you can blame on a president. And this is just ridiculous as it is, because the economy is better than it's ever been under Biden. But somehow they've translated what they perceive as doldrum or some type of change in their lives for the worse. They're ready to just say, okay, Trump's going to give me a job. I mean, what is that?
A belief that something that can't happen can happen, if that makes any sense. Just because white males, a lot of them, feel that life under Democrats is a bad thing because Democrats embrace equality, Democrats embrace women as equals.
Mhm.
I
And that's a real problem for these
No,
same people
I
you're
embrace
talking
women.
about.
I embrace women as superior to us. I think they're superior in most every way that matters. Now, once upon a time when you had to wrestle a dinosaur, maybe women were second class, but in everything else, they're better. I mean, think about this for a moment, okay? One of the things that you have to be able to do in the modern world is multitask. And who is better at multitasking from the beginning than women? With the, again, getting back to, I'm going to defer to David Hogue, and I hope that he and some young people who are concerned about this are coming up with a way to try to reach. I really hope that's from a porn star or something, whatever you're reading. That
No, I'm just keeping track of some shit here. Okay, that's what this what we're doing. Okay.
how bad Holdsworth ratings are, or whatever.
Listen to you.
Let's talk about another subject that I think we need
Sure.
to talk about tonight, and we're both somewhat expert in it for our years in it. We had yet another school shooting.
Mhm.
And look, first of all, the word tragedy applies every time a gun is pulled and someone is injured or killed in a school. Goes without saying. But we can always examine some of these incidences in the hopes that someday we'll figure out what to do. And I'm not sure, I honestly don't know that we do know what to do yet. I mean, we have, again, divided America, okay?
Let's just put it this way. This can be solved. You could end this, just like Stalin ended crime in the Soviet Union.
Well,
the question is, how far do you go?
I don't know. Let's put it like this. Honestly, it can't be ended if you interpret the Constitution the way it is currently interpreted.
Right. You can't just say everything goes like they do down in
Right.
Alabama.
So let's look at this.
And that nicety that you're in this Southern etiquette
I
that you
know this is what I
revere
said.
so much
No,
go ahead
like
and just
I said,
talk like you're
once you
talking now and see how nice they
once you
become to
dig
you.
under the surface, no. Um, but okay, so let's look at this shooting. So what do we have? Apparently, we have, and again, it seeps out, and there's misinformation and disinformation and this kind of thing. What we know, I think, what we know now is we have a classic first sign of possible trouble for a student. You had a clearly dysfunctional family. Okay,
Absolutely.
that seems to be it. All right, but yet not every member of a dysfunctional family takes a
Goes
gun
off. Right.
and goes. So it's not just that. Um, so why did this young man do what he did? Well, but you know what? We may get a shot at that, right? Because he's still alive.
Right. And you also can take a good look at mom and dad and see what their politics are like. Because don't forget, they reared this son of a bitch.
True.
That was that. There's your Dr. Frankenstein right there.
I mean, so let's look. You've got a troubled kid who has a history of trouble. He may have actually transferred out of the school because he was having trouble adjusting into the, because it appears that, you know, he wasn't, had not been a student in this school his whole time. But obviously now, last year, this is where it gets interesting. And I don't, he was questioned, or his family was questioned. He was questioned by the FBI.
Right, right.
He was on their target list. And now people have said, well, they should, you can't, if there's nothing there, you can't arrest the kid, right? I mean,
right. And if you do, then you're going to have to do it to about 100,000 kids under suspicion.
Again, the Constitution prevents you from doing this. And I'm glad that it does. But certainly there's warning signs should be going off all over the place with this kid, especially at home. And what does his father do? Apparently, and I'm sure I've seen this play out before. I'm sure you have as a teacher. A parent can't control their child, so they try to appease them, to give them something they want, rather than depriving them of something they want, or saying, when you go 90 days without getting suspended, then we'll, you know.
And now his dad's looking at over 100 years in prison if he
and deserves every year that he gets, right? Because this man, well aware of what's going on, gifted a weapon that should only be a military weapon.
And don't forget, he will get the NRA to back him up with the attorney, because that's what the NRA is afraid of, because they're not afraid of the gun it won't be banned, but they're afraid that our NRA members are going to be afraid to buy all these weapons, because if they do get convicted because of their children, they've got an issue.
Now let's continue to look at the school. Now there'll be people that will fault the school because the mother, according to the aunt, again,
called the guidance counselor,
said do something, but
maybe she knew something was going to be happening. She said, "Oh shit, I'm going to be put in prison."
Oh no, she knew. I don't think there's any question about that. And they
why didn't her ass drive? In addition to call the police, not the school, the police.
I understand.
And get your ass there.
But that's something I don't think is your first inclination. I think your first inclination is to call the school, because that's where your child is, whether you care for him or not. And apparently she had methamphetamine problems, whatever. But anyway, so she calls.
I don't doubt.
Now they do send. Here's where it gets again. They do supposedly the right thing. They send somebody out to look for him. But now, from what I've read, there was a mix-up in the names, and they went to the room and he wasn't there, and so they went back, and of course he wasn't there because he had left the room to go get his gun, to go get the rifle. Now you've got, I believe it was 3, I think, armed security guards there, and they were able to get him to surrender, but not until he had killed 4 people and injured 9 others. And I would urge anyone out there, and again, you have to be careful because I don't know what's true and what's not true, but there's some really horrifying things coming out that seem to be true. Like the girl who wrote on her arm, "Mom, I love you." And her mom asked, "Well, why'd you do that?" She said, "I didn't think I would live, and I want you to know that I loved you." So you would see it. No kid should have to go through that. The fact of the teacher who said that when she ordered the furniture for her room, she looked to get big sofas so she could turn them over. It uses blocks. No teacher should have to consider that. The locks worked. They just put in a new system. The security was flashing. everything was working.
And still, and this is why these
And
Republicans,
still,
they don't
now,
understand it. You cannot foolproof this shit.
there are people who will say, well, it was much better. It could always be worse, of course. But 1 death is 1 too many. 4 deaths is 4 too many. And 13...
And injured. And sometimes it's worse when they're maimed for life.
Correct. So what happens? I've noticed something about this election, and I understand education has been nowhere in this election, and I think it's the most important problem facing America, because so many problems stem from that. Whether it's entitled, whether it's lack of empathy, whether it's guns, violence. So,
and the
Mr.
teachers
Vance,
are forced to become police, basically. Like you are not only trying to manage the class, you have to literally safeguard every student, because it is your job.
it's very,
But
I
it's something, I don't mind putting the Superman suit on, but if I don't have protection, now I'm really in trouble. Flesh and
Let's put it like-
steel don't mix very well.
I can only say for myself, the day that they ordered or even allowed teachers to have guns, which they never did while I was teaching, I would have quit on the spot. I would. I mean, that's just
Right,
not-
I would too. 'Cause, you can't watch
and-
over that shit.
and you have to understand that, again, if you know anything about the psychology, teachers are the last people that want to use their guns. I would sooner use them on administrators than I would the kids.
I'll be careful
But
to
anyway,
say that. Yeah.
so you've got this whole thing going. But of course, Mr. Vance, who is the barking dog for Trump, comes out, and I will say this: his quote was taken a little bit out of context, but it wasn't that egregious. But basically said, in essence, he said, this is a fact of life. It's not a fact of life. It's a fact of life because the Republican Party,
Right.
with the financial backing of the NRA, which the NRA is in complete disillusion and disrepair and whatever. So it doesn't even really exist anymore. So I don't even want to hear the NRA.
Do you think this has anything to do with it, Dave?
What? You know what? That is a fascinating question.
Mm-hmm. Not many people named Colt. A few,
Well,
football
right.
players.
South there are. In the South there are. Colt is a pretty big name
Right.
in the South.
Winchester.
I mean, but it was certainly. I mean, it certainly lends itself to asking. And let's see. It is known in the States. Guns, death. Every other country on the planet. Yeah. Well, they run the whole list of things. Well, it's it's the videos. Well, it's this. Every country in the world has all that we have, with one exception. They don't have the guns and the easy access to guns.
Right.
And that's what we need. And but Vance, like I said, he put his foot. That didn't help. I mean, that doesn't help gain any people. A fact of life. And what he said is the Republican.
Is that all he could reduce the problem to? Is just saying it's
Well,
a
he
fact
just said
of
he
life.
said it's a reality. You got to face the reality. I mean, what that says to me, and what it should say to everybody, is he doesn't think that it can be changed.
Well, for all of those of you who are religious, and Dave knows how I feel about this, that's kind of like, again, don't take this the wrong way, folks, but in the New Testament, one of the most obscene statements that I have ever heard is that the poor will be with us always. In other words, you're the champion for the poor, and you're telling us that, oh well, it's going, no, you're the one that's supposed to lead them out of bondage here. I mean, if they're poor.
No,
So don't say
no,
it's, the poor will be with us always. Well, that's the same thing Vance has done.
And of course, what's
Bullshit.
interesting for those who fall back on the Bible, unless I missed it, and I feel that I'm a fairly good student of the Bible. Unless I missed
Well, I
it,
hope you don't like that
I don't
statement,
remember
okay?
that
Because that's
thou
not a
shalt-
very good one.
that thou shalt be entitled to an AK-47. I don't remember reading that. Maybe I missed that verse, right? So the idea of it is we have to do things. Now, the only party that's going to do anything is the Democrats, if they can. And some of them, because they like their jobs better and they think do more good, they sacrifice. Like Bernie Sanders does not have a good record on guns.
Right, because he has a state where they do
Correct.
hunt,
But I mean,
and
so
he needs
I
to
mean,
win a vote. There are
but
not
in
many
general-
voters, so
in general, Democrats are going to, then you've got the argument, well, and this is something. I mean, it's not a reason not to act, but it's frightening. Most people agree, experts in guns agree, that there are more guns than people in the United States.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean that everyone is armed. Obviously,
There
there
are
are
more
people
guns
that,
than ants in the United States.
Pardon me?
I think there are more guns than ants in the United States.
No, depends.
Okay, I'm getting.
No, I know what
facetious
you're
here,
saying.
but,
No. And it how did that get burnt in? I mean, there's just little things. These are just little sides, but I've been so anti. No, and it's different. It's you could be anti-gun. That's one thing. All guns should go. That cannot be done. So I disregard that. What I am is having realistic gun regulations put on that at least mirror the idea of driving and other things where you have to get tested and demonstrate an ability on. And, the gun show should be, there's all kinds of things that you could do. The problem is, though, it has to be national, Brian, because if it's not national, you just cross,
right, because they're just, because with these southern states, we talked about the license plates with these, the southern states, red states are selling these license plates in northern states. It's the same thing with guns. A lot of these guns can be traced to these red states. So they're making money on it. So it's about money, and then money means more than flesh. Unless, of course, it's pornography, then they're okay with it.
Basically, again, we see another division in the nation. We see division in many cases of but there seems to be far more support from the Republicans for banning books than it does banning guns. I mean, that's just a true statement. And which one can kill you? It'd be pretty damn hard. I guess you could beat somebody to death with a book, I suppose. But I don't think you could beat 4 people to death with a book and injure 9 others before you got stopped. So those arguments, to me, are ridiculous. We have to do something. And the only party that's going to do anything about it, if it's going to get done at all, is the Democrats. Now,
and then it's up to the voters, of course. And then the gerrymandering makes it almost impossible to win.
Right. It really is. I mean, it is that, but you can't, I always looked at it. I don't think this is the greatest analogy I ever came up with, but I almost look at it like, okay, I have cancer in my toe, right? And if I cut my toe off, the cancer won't grow. And I don't want to cut my toes off. Or say I've had it in 5 toes. Sometimes you have to sacrifice something for the whole. Right. And I think guns is this incident. Now, we also had something happen today that, again, is divided America, and it shows just how divided we are. Did you follow? Well, first of all, I'm not, I always do this as an everyman. I don't mean to, people. Do you know who Tyreek Hill is?
Yes.
And who is Tyreek Hill?
He's a wide receiver for the Miami Dolphins, and I know he was stopped by a cop recently.
Not recently. Here's the story. He's on the way to the stadium today. He gets pulled over for speeding. And the next thing we have video of is a cop on his back, and he's on the ground, and there are all these cops around him, and the situation is just deteriorating. Now, then another who actually got NFL, I forget who it was, somebody who got NFL Citizen of the Year came up, and the cops took him down. But of course, people are filming all this. Now, we don't know what transpired with Tyreek. And there's no sense in speculating on it. All we know is the visuals showed another example of white cops brutalizing a black man. Now, we don't know we don't know what happened, but that's what the pictures show, right?
Right.
Now, how does that fit into politics? Trump would favor that. Trump would do nothing about it. Trump would say it was okay, let the police do what they will. I have no idea.
Speeding, that kind of shit.
I would challenge anybody who's in the Fraternal Order of Police, how in good conscience, after what Trump called his goons and MAGA people to do, and the effect it had on the police in Washington, D.C. on January 6th, how you can endorse them, what you did. And so if you look at that incident as disturbing, which every American should, one, we know which side is going to dismiss it. They're going to take the police side. And that, again, is the Republicans. And, it's just so obvious. But, Brian, I did a little thinking this week beyond. And I made this statement before, but it's becoming more clear. I don't know what we do. I don't know. We're going to have to figure out, how do we function in a completely divided America that's never going to get undivided? It's never going to get undivided. I'll make that statement, at least in my lifetime.
And I would, like you said, it's always kind of been divided, but not to this level, except if we look, of course, back to the Civil War. And as you, we can say what you said, with the history rhyming. It was Twain or whatever it said. I don't know, but it does kind of rhyme. I mean, as much as it may not be slavery, it's still there's that tinge of racism in many cases. To me, it's kind of the same thing. It's a psychological event.
But you know what I think is different, Brian? And say, history. People say, human beings have been the same. Well, certainly, but we have bigger or better or worse toys. And right now, social media can be used for the best of times, as Dickens described it, and it can be used for the worst of times, as Dickens described it. Now think about this, and I'm the one who say, don't listen to polls, don't listen to polls. Political ones, I don't. I think sometimes surveys, though, and polling can show you trends and things. And I think it came back 57% of young people under the age of 30 said they got their news from TikTok. Now, we know that social media, again, you've got the free speech problems. Elon Musk is crud, and he now has the second largest voice, Twitter, only behind Facebook. And actually, Twitter was way ahead in terms of young people, and now it's moved back, and it went to Snapchat, and now it's on to TikTok. But and that, I don't know how you control that. Follow through. I found this really interesting. I've been doing a lot of research on AI and Photoshopped and fake pictures, because that concerns me, a little bit, or not more than a little bit. And I don't know if you saw that picture of the Waltz family. It is true. Right. I mean, there are some distant relatives in Nebraska who are anti. We all have, anti-liberal or pro-Trump people in our families. That's not a big deal. But, at first they tried to claim, because they misspelled the word, they did it with an apostrophe S instead of an ES. Well, that didn't make it a fake. Apparently, the people agreed that they were in the picture. But one of the things they say you can do with a picture, Brian, is for some reason, and somebody out there who's much smarter than I am, please let me know, email me or something, that a lot of times they don't get all the details right. And one of the claims is, a lot of times you either get 4 fingers or elongated fingers or 6 fingers. And I've seen examples of that. And apparently in this picture, or at least one that circulated, there were, some members only had 4 fingers. So now you've got the people saying it's real, it's apparently real, but it had to be put through some kind of distillation process. So my point is, with social media and the divide, no way.
No way.
No way. Are we going to come together?
And that's why we've been so successful as a Facebook group page, because it started at first where people were, kind of intimidated to join us because, wow, they're separating themselves from the Republican Party. They don't give in. This is a united country. We can't do that. But then people started coming around saying, well, we have no other choice because they are intransigent. They are unassailable. So it is high time that we do the same until they're willing to be reasonable. We're not even talking about saying, you got to listen to us. You just have to be reasonable.
My son has a different view of this than I do. He's more encouraged about it than I am. But we saw this week one of the great political families of republicanism, the Cheneys, come out. What? I don't get a cutoff time. No.
Oh, you got a cutoff time. All right. God damn it. I got to work tomorrow. It's 1:41 there.
No.
Get your words in.
I'm going to come into your home. No. The idea is this, though. With the divide, how are we going to function? I mean, that's, a real question. But anyway, the Cheneys come out, and that means there are good Republicans. Now, I didn't think, it's like all of a sudden I feel like I'm siding with Darth Vader, with Dick Cheney. But
right, because you have triple Darth Vader on the other side, so you
and there you are.
Right.
You have a person in Donald Trump that I believe is deranged. B, suffers from severe psychological problems such as narcissism that makes it impossible for him to be a leader. 3 is that not that is the rarity in that he's the biggest bully, but the biggest wimp at one time. There's just nothing to, and yet he may well be our president, Brian.
All right. He may be our president. Well, that is our cue for hold on until next week and find out how we will solve this.
Brian, wait. Just hold on a minute here. You're rushing this thing.
I am rushing you because I got to get going in 23 seconds.
See, now you're using that there back scratcher, you know. And right. That's okay. That's okay. But what I want to say is I just don't understand this outlook about Donald Trump ain't no good. I heard a guy Nate say that. Okay. I just don't get it.
All right, you'll get it next time. Okay.
No, I got 3 words for you personally, and for everybody listening. Listen carefully to what I'm going to say, boy, because I want you to understand this. 3 words. It's coming up in a minute. Don't rush.
Say it, God damn it.
It's worth wait. Be patient.
Buford, it's time.
Words, in no particular order. God, guns, and porn.
I think the most reasonable of the 3 is the third one, and then that's that. I'm not endorsing it, but of the 3, that would be the most pleasurable of them all. Yeah. Don't forget your waitress's good night. Time to play off. Yeah. All right. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. You've seen Buford here, and you've seen Dave. I'm Brian. Join us next week, and please subscribe if you're incognito and we don't know who you are. And T-Bone. Hope everything's okay in Florida, but be careful. You sleep with one open wide down there, okay? I know you're in the midst of it because I'm in a county like that, and it's bad enough, but you're in a state like that, and the worst thing about it, T-Bone, is you're reasonable, so you are going to be their main meal.
Just like a northerner attacking
just like
nice
people like
state.
That.
You know
with
what
the
I mean?
gun. Could you believe that? All right, Dave, thanks.
We'll be back at some point, God willing, and the creek don't rise. We'll be
all
back.
right. Enjoy your cornmeal. See ya.